Hi, everyone. Welcome to Regulation Rundown, sponsored by Settlewise.
Mhm.
We're here with, as always, with Alayna Gardner and myself, Jim Paolino, and a printout
Have
of
homework.
the Banking and Housing 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Freshly dropped,
Yeah,
right? Freshly passed,
the House.
just the House.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're
Uh,
on our way to the Senate, but this is what was passed in the
so this
House
is the big regulatory housing bill. Just to date us, it passed today or
last
yesterday
night.
or whatever last night. So
Mm.
it's good. So we were trying to get ourselves up to speed on this. There's a
Mhm.
lot of different sections and a lot of items. We're only reading the summary. We both independently printed out the summary,
Yes.
which I appreciated. So what are your initial thoughts?
I think overall this is a pretty good package. I think it focuses on what we've talked about a
Mhm.
lot
Yeah.
on this podcast, and I think in the industry, which is the inventory shortage. I
Mhm.
think there are some things that I don't like about some of the language, there are
Yeah.
things that I like about the language. Overall, I wish it was a little bit more specific.
Yeah. I mean, we are
But
reading the
we're
summary,
reading
so
the
there might be more
summary,
in there.
so,
Mhm.
we don't
Yeah.
know for sure. I didn't read the full, legal document because that would have taken much longer than we had to prep for this podcast. Uh,
We're also just not detailed people.
no.
That's not our strength. We're TLDR
Yeah,
folks.
that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on the
I
summaries?
feel like, there's the saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And, how do you solve a $5 million unit housing shortage one house at a time? Right. And I think there's a lot of elements of that in a way I appreciated because there's a lot of little things that I'm like, oh, that could be a very good idea.
Mm,
Obviously, the devil's in the details, but I feel like more things like they're raising limits on multifamily FHA housing.
mhm.
So it can be, easier to get those loans in more markets as prices go up. Perfect. Great.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Right. I circled 207 grants for planning and implementation. So pilot
Yep.
program to offer grants to assist state, local, and tribal governments with regional housing um, planning and community development activities. Great. Like this is a great kind of combination, I think, of how the federal government can help local governments because housing is incredibly local. So that's always part of the problem. How can you make these things faster locally, but
Yep.
also support them federally in a kind of one size fits all way? So there's that. There's the innovation fund I circled too, which is just helping communities build more housing supply.
Yeah.
Great. Good. Right. There's obviously some things that kind of butt into more environmental rules
Mhm.
and things like that in a way that could be problematic. I saw one that was like basically making veterans aware on the loan application that there could be VA options for them. Right. Like, so there are a lot of things that I think are making it both more affordable, but also easier to make houses at the same time. So I like that. I know we both jumped on what was 1001, the one about,
Oh, yeah,
like
this very
homes are for
specific line.
people or something like
Yeah,
that.
homes are for people, not corporations.
Yeah.
That feels a little,
Yeah.
and I mean, we haven't read like the full summary, but the summary itself is vague,
Yeah.
which leads me to believe the contents in it are not more
Right. It's
specific.
saying large financial institutions can't buy certain types of houses. What's a large financial institution and what's a certain type of house, right? Could be good. It's also tough to know what all of this addresses, but I feel like this is a earnest attempt to fix a very large problem.
100%, yeah,
Hmm.
and I think overwhelmingly, I think these are positive.
Hmm.
There's even some things in here for tenants as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Temperature sensor pilot program. I think this is something that's talked a lot about in like New York.
Hmm.
As there is existing regulation around what temperature your house has to be at or your apartment in renting.
Hmm.
So this would provide subsidies towards
Yeah.
landowners or building owners that
Yeah.
install these temperature regulating devices,
Hmm.
which I think is very, it monitors the temperature of the property.
Hmm.
Also protects the property as
Yeah.
an asset, which is
Yeah.
nice for lenders.
There were a few things I saw about kind of speeding up the process, a couple things around appraisal of what needs to be appraised, lowering the bar for appraisers so more appraisers can be available, the
Mhm.
capacity increases. So, it seems like there's kind of a wide breadth of things, not only working on the supply problem, which I think is the toughest part of this, but also making the transaction easier, hopefully cheaper, and then fighting the affordability piece as well. But you have to do all of these things. Well,
Kind of
you have to do it
simultaneously.
together. Mainly, if you don't fix the supply problem, affordability and a faster transaction just means prices go up. right?
100%.
So I think it's doing a little bit of everything in a way that's um ultimately helpful. I mean, we'll see what passes, what it finally looks like, what happens with some of these pilot programs, but I think I'm pleasantly surprised, I would say.
Yeah, I would say overall, I think the NBA's done a good job with this, and
Yeah.
FAA.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean the other things that I had highlighted that you haven't mentioned is Section 202, the Whole Home Repairs Act. I think that's really positive considering we do have a lot of aging stock, especially on the East Coast.
Yeah.
To be able to get money out to renovate some of these homes. I think there, and also these homes, the land that they sit on is so expensive that it's like, okay, you
Yeah.
then have to get another loan to
Yeah.
renovate it. And then revitalizing empty structures into desirable environments act.
Hmm.
I thought that was really interesting because Philadelphia itself has a lot of abandoned
Yeah.
warehouses, old
Hmm.
historical mills. We're
Right.
actually in an old mill right now that's now
Yeah.
an office building, right?
Super crooked one,
A
but
super
yeah.
crooked, our floors are not even close to level. Um, but I think that's also very important to
Yeah.
recognize what we already have, and that also keeps some of the unique architecture that the
Yeah.
country has maintained,
Hmm.
while allowing people
Yeah.
to kind of to live there, which
One
is
thing
great.
that caught my eye, kind of opposite to that, is the Price Act 304 around manufactured homes.
Yep.
So, a 7-year program to provide grants, maintain, protect, and stabilize manufactured housing and manufactured housing communities.
Yeah.
Right? A way to make homes more affordable is to have more manufactured homes that don't need to be built on site.
Yep.
Right? Like, that's super helpful, right? So, like, it's hitting a lot of different things. No one of them is going to be able to solve the problem, but together you're going to be able to make, I think, a bigger impact.
100. So I think overall, good job by the NBA here getting
Yeah.
this pushed through. And
Hmm.
I'm interested to see what passes in the Senate and
Yeah.
how they're able to work with that. But
See what happens when folks dig into the fine print on a few of these as well.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is definitely one of our quicker turn times, I think, because I got the email, I think 9 o'clock last night that this had gone through.
Yeah. You said it to us this morning. Like, hey, let's talk about this. So
Yeah.
that's what
So
we're doing.
yeah, I think it's a good thing and optimistic towards, housing inventory.
Mhm.
And, we love to see a win.
Yeah.
So yeah, and with that, I think we'll move on over. We're gonna go record full disclosure right after this. So if you want to hear more about our opinions about the mortgage industry, Jim's book club, all of that, please go check that out. If not, we'll see you next month with another regulation rundown.